We're going to start this session with Associate Professor Robert Dickey. But I noticed that he's here now, so we can start. Before he starts delivering his keynote speech, I'd like to give a short introduction about himself. He is an assistant professor in the School of Public Service at Young University. Hope I pronounce it well. Rob, I don't speak Korean, so please forgive me. In Daegu, South Korea. He is a past president of Korea TESOL and has been teaching English as well as other subjects in Korea for over 25 years. And been teaching and learning languages in multilingual communities much longer. He is editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Law, Language, and Discourse. Without further ado, I will let Rob to say something about himself if he wants you to know more about him and start delivering his keynote speech about zooming along in ELT. And the question is it really for the best? Rob, time is yours.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry for being late. That's the problem of different time zones. My name's Robert Dickey. I'm in South Korea. And, well, we're 50 minutes early for me, but let's go. Let's just start, okay? So I'm going to load up my PowerPoint, and I guess my face will go away. Is my audio okay? Everything's fine?
Yep, you're okay. It's more than okay, loud and clear.
Okay, so let me just, I need 3 seconds or so. Let's see. PowerPoint to display mode. That's not it. PowerPoint to display mode. And, well, I don't know how to do it that way. So I'm just going to do it this way. Go. Okay, so let's go. My topic today is zooming along an ELT really for the best? I'm playing with the word zooming. Of course, we're using the Zoom technology, and many teachers today are using Zoom technology. So let's just get started. There are 5 main points to my talk today. We'll do a quick introduction. We'll talk about our current setting, that is the COVID environment. We're going to talk a little bit about our teaching and learning objectives as teachers. We're going to talk about the constraints of the platforms we're teaching through in this COVID era. And finally, the part you really want to talk about is the options, approaches, and challenges, things like methods, activities, and technologies. So let's just go. Okay, who am I and who are you? Well, basically, I'm a teacher just like you. And I'm a learner just like you. I live in Korea. My first language is English. I'm from the United States. But I've lived in Korea 25 years and I'm still not as good in Korean as some of my students are in English. So maybe I'm not a very effective learner. On the other hand, it's my 6th language to be a learner of. So maybe I've learned something about learning. And for many of your learners, it's the same story. Because Bahasa Indonesia might not be their first language. So the national language of Indonesia might be their second language. So when they're learning English, they have already learned something about language learning. And we need to keep that in our minds. Third, I'm an administrator. That means I manage my classes, I manage other classes, I manage some teachers associations, and I manage a journal. I also manage my family a little bit, although my wife maybe doesn't think so. And all of you live in households where people share roles. So we're all administrators. I'm a researcher. Some of you are just starting into research. Others have been doing it for a time. I'm also the editor of a journal, as I mentioned. I'm a parent and a citizen. Now, when I say citizen, I don't mean a citizen of my home country where I get a passport. Yes, of course that, of course you. But also it means we're a member of our communities and we have important roles as members of our community. We're a teacher in our classroom. But when we're out of the classroom, people still know we're a teacher. And that's part of our role as a citizen. And we teach our students to do good things, right? To be a good citizen in the classroom, to be a good citizen in the community. We're all that. Finally, and most important, I, just like you, am very frustrated with how COVID has changed our lives. Changed our lives in the community, changed our lives in the classroom, changed our lives in every way. I would much rather be visiting you face to face. I love visiting Indonesia. So what is the COVID situation? Well, there's probably 6 different environments. Some people, like me, started the school year face to face. We started in February, we were face to face, and then in the semester, it changed. That's really hard. Some people expected to start the year face to face, but suddenly it changed. Other people changed from face to face to remote in the middle of the year. Other people have gone back and forth. This semester for me, our university, we have moved back and forth from face to face to remote teaching, back to face to face. Now the COVID numbers are up this week in Korea. We may be back to remote classes next week. I don't know. 2 weeks from final exams, we may be shifting again. Some people are teaching a hybrid, a mix. Maybe they alternate. So last semester, I taught 2 classes per week, per class, per group of students. And 1 class I did as a recorded lecture. Classes, I have to Zoom at the same time. The Zoom is running in my classroom because I have students who couldn't come to Korea. They're in other countries, China, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, and they couldn't come to Korea because of COVID restrictions. So I have to teach them by distance while I'm in the classroom. Okay, so what are our teaching and learning objectives? Well, the first objective for most of us is the teaching of English. I guess perhaps in this group today, there are some of you whose primary subject is different, maybe history, maybe math. But before COVID, we all understood I am a language teacher. I am a social studies teacher. I am what I am. But even before COVID, we always have other topics, other areas that we're concerned with that we want to teach. So for example, as an English teacher, I'm a content-based teacher. I also teach other school subject areas, management, public administration, economics. We have general scholarship issues. For example, how to think about and produce a report. Not the English side, but thinking through what is a school report supposed to look like, right? Other things. How do you take a textbook on the first day and examine it and get an idea what's happening? How do you prepare to read when the teacher gives you a reading? Some people have heard of the SQ3R method, right? When you open the chat and look at all the things that are going on. Ask questions while you're surveying. What am I going to be learning? What is this about? And then there's 3 R's. I'm not going to go into the detail of that. You can look it up, SQRRR. And then we have the general social citizenship matters, how to be a good classmate, how to live in society well. Third thing some of us worried about for COVID was technology. How do I make the technology work in my classroom, if I have any at all? Some people will say that technology goes back to the beginning of man. How do we define technology? Other people only think of technology in terms of my smartphone, big smartphone. It's a tablet phone, but it's not very new. So I have some issues with that. Do you use a computer to prepare your classes? Those are all the kinds of technology questions we ask in a COVID situation. Have these things changed? I want to suggest that in general, they haven't changed, although the specifics may have changed. What are our COVID era teaching objectives? Again, what has changed? Maybe what's new? What are our learning objectives for our students other than what I have prepared in my field of study? I'm a social science teacher. They're supposed to learn about the history of migration in Southeast Asia. Okay. What other things do I want my learners to learn? Maybe I want them to learn how to use a library. Maybe I want to teach them and have them learn how to do effective Google searches. What are my personal teaching objectives? For me, in my classroom, one of my objectives is always talk less. Give students their thinking time. Sometimes we talk about teacher talking time, TTT, student talking time, STT, and student thinking time, STHT. Teacher talking time, student talking time, and student thinking time. This says that silence can be good. So what are my personal teaching objectives? In every lesson plan, I should have something that I want to work on to improve my teaching. And what are my personal learning objectives? That could be things related to my study field. I teach public administration, I teach law, I teach economics, I teach English. But it could also be things outside. For example, have I improved my Korean language skills today? We can mix these personal teaching objectives and these personal learning objectives into the theme of professional development. And that's partly why you're here today, I hope. Okay, so let's talk about the constraints of the platform, of the media. Many people are complaining about Zoom. I want to suggest that Zoom is just a medium. It's just a platform. Just like in the olden days. Remember the olden days when the platform was a chalkboard? I'm old, ladies and gentlemen, I'm old. And I turned 62 earlier this week. And we didn't call them chalkboards, we called them blackboards. And I know that in many countries they are still black or gray. And then an upgrade was green. And now many places have whiteboards and electronic whiteboards. It's just a medium. When I first came to Korea, I used to carry a boombox into every classroom to play cassette tapes of, the English or whatever from the book or whatever. And one of my challenges was finding an electrical outlet that I could plug in the boombox conveniently. Some classrooms had many electrical outlets, some had just one. You had to find it. It might not be where you wanted it. Start carrying extension cords. But Zoom is just a medium. Another constraint are school decisions. Those top level decisions that we don't get to participate in, or maybe we might be a member of a community, a teacher's council that makes some choices. There's always going to be budget issues. There's always going to be standardized equipment, like we all use the same textbook. In some schools, we have to follow a common lesson plan. Maybe we take turns designing a lesson plan for our peers. Maybe the seniors make the peers. Maybe the lesson plan came from the textbook company or the government. We often have this idea of a uniform classroom. If you're an elementary school teacher and you own your classroom, maybe you can put lots of decorations on the wall. School encourages you to put decorations on the wall. But if you're at other schools where the teachers, especially English teachers, have to move around room to room to room, kind of stuck with a standard room. And that's the class that we can work. We can't change the lighting, we can't change the colors on the wall, we can't change the chairs. And in some schools, we have very strict grading guidelines. 20% maximum can get an A, something like that. Or a 75 is the standard grade, you have to curve up and down from that. Technology limitations. Yeah, look at that computer. That's a bit extreme, but when I started my job, they promised me and they told me that we will have internet, beam projectors, the best technology in every classroom, and we were expected to use it. So you walk to a classroom and so today something doesn't work. Or you're ready to use this shiny new toy you have, but it won't partner with the system in the campus. So we have problems with internet access in the classroom, but sometimes in our office. Do our students have Wi-Fi? Are we trying to do something in the classroom with their phones? Classroom devices itself, of course. The LMS, I'm going to talk more about the LMS later. The learning management system. Is there a system designed to let you have upload work and download work? And in general, technology support. How well does the school officials support your use of technology? What about students? What's their technology limitation? I'm going to guess that some people in Indonesia don't have Wi-Fi at all. I'm going to guess that some students in some places maybe don't even have a smartphone, or they have a smartphone, but there's very few places they can use it because they don't have a data plan, right? They have to go to a coffee shop or someplace. So there are connection problems. I mentioned my phone. It's a big phone. It's nice. I use it on the train as a to read the newspaper and to do some work. But actually, in terms of technology, it's 4 years old and it wasn't best at that time. So it lags sometimes. And somebody says, "Oh, you need to add this new app so we can do this." No, I'm sorry, my phone is full. I can't add any more apps. So students have technology limitations, and some of those are based on money, but some of those limitations may be on choice or by parents' choice. We also have to think about philosophical issues and personal skill set. For example, I don't like to ask students to use 4 different apps or platforms in my class. Some of my colleagues, they have students using this and that and this and that, 4 or 5 different logins. And I don't. I think if I can't do it on the LMS, the campus LMS and Zoom, then I can't do it. Personal skill sets. Are you very, very good in technology? Are you less good in technology? Computer-based limitations in multitasking. Now that seems a little bit confusing, but let me explain it just a bit. Right now, you have 2 senses available, listening and seeing, for this lecture, this talk. And your vision is limited to a monitor. But in the classroom, just using those 2 senses, you also have the ability to look out of the corner of your eye and see your friend scribbling a note. All right. Now, Zoom has, in some cases, if you set it up, a chat function, but it's not the same. And in the classroom, your friend can kind of rub your arm and then You look over and they're handing you a little note and you're glancing down and looking at that note. And so we have more senses available. And maybe the sense of smell or taste or touch. So the computer limits what we can do while we're multitasking. We all have life issues, all right? Even when we're teaching in the classroom, we have life issues, but maybe we can kind of push those to the side. We can kind of turn them off, maybe, while we're in the classroom. But when we're at home, there's more things going on. Do we have good workspace? Can we control our scheduling? I'm lucky today. My wife is at work. My daughter is in high school. My son is in the Navy. I'm home alone. There's nobody to bother me. But as the picture at the bottom of this corner suggests, look at the cat. Sometimes we have to control our environment in a way that's a little bit less friendly. I'm lucky. My children learned when they were very, very young. When daddy closes the door in the study room, you can't go in. Don't knock on the door. Unless the house is burning, don't bother him. He's teaching. So I'm fortunate that way, but not everyone is. Okay, so we're in the key part of our talk now. And that key part is really about what we can do in Zoom or maybe some other things. So I start by telling you, Zoom is not my favorite thing. On the other hand, if I'm teaching more than 7 or 8 people, Zoom is probably the best choice, in my view. If I'm teaching 2, 3, or 4 people, I probably prefer Skype. Discord is there. Microsoft Teams I haven't used. Facebook Messenger rooms, a lot of people are big fans of that. But each of these have certain things they do and don't do. GoToMeeting I haven't used. One of the best aspects of Zoom is that you can create breakout rooms. And that's really useful. On the other hand, there are a number of limitations with those breakout rooms, and we're going to talk about that. Okay. Another option is, what are we doing in the classroom as a teacher? Unfortunately, Zoom doesn't allow us to do everything that we would do in a classroom. And Zoom makes it much easier to become a teacher-fronted lecturer. That's not a good thing. But each of us as teachers, we make choices. Do I believe more in CLT, communicative language teaching, or a, we could say, classroom facilitator, guide on the side? We know all these words, right? All these ideas. And that's true in other subjects too. If you're a music teacher, do you talk a lot? Do you instruct a lot? Or do you let people experiment more? If you're a science teacher, do you use the laboratory more or the book more? Do you lecture more? Do you use more videos? We make these choices. Okay, so as a communicative language teacher, we might be particularly big fans of tasks or content-based. Now, I'm a big fan of content-based teaching, and I use task-based teaching a lot. But one-to-one and small group breakout sessions, well, Zoom is our best choice, but it still doesn't work as well as we hope. There's more future developments, we hope. How do you feel about homework? How do you feel about flipped learning? And, well, excuse me, but what is flipped learning? I actually think that the Zoom environment is a good place for flipped learning if you can get off of Zoom. What I mean is, as I said last semester, I had one recorded lecture and one Zoom class. And flipped learning suggests that instead of the teacher standing in the classroom and instructing, providing that guidance, how to do the lecture, We make that a video. We let students study that at the time when they would otherwise be doing homework. And then in the classroom, students are doing what we usually think of as homework, tasks, assignments, exercises, where the student can get immediate feedback from the teacher. Teacher, I don't understand. How do we do this? Right? We can do that in a physical classroom. We can also do that in Zoom, because now students can click the little raised hand feature in Zoom, or they can wave their hand on the screen so the teacher can see and say, oh, okay, Rodolfo, what's your question? Ah, yes, okay. So we're reversing the idea of what is a individual assignment, we'll do that in the classroom, and what is the group lecture, we'll do that recorded. The other aspect of Zoom, and the part that I'm going to talk more about, are the complementary services, the accessories, the things that we do that make Zoom work. And as I mentioned earlier, last semester I used recorded lectures. We have online readings, and of course a textbook, web quests, the idea of finding things on the web, polls or surveys, chat platforms, learning management systems, and so on. And that's where I'm going next. All right. So when we're talking about Zoom, what's our first challenge? Well, the first challenge is the last challenge, is the ultimate challenge. That's connectivity. Zoom doesn't work if you're not on the internet. Period. End of statement. And for some people in some places, that is the beginning and the end. If a number of their students can't get online, can't get connected to Zoom, Zoom server is having a bad day, the internet in your neighborhood or on your campus is bad, game over, it's done. Just as important as internet connectivity is student connectivity. Is their brain connected? Right? Focus. Are they in class? And you all know that as classroom teachers. You've got 27 students in front of you. Only 20 of them are in the classroom. Somewhere else. They're watching in their mind. They're watching again that big football match from last night. She's thinking about her boyfriend. He's thinking about his father who's going to be angry when he comes home because he didn't do something this morning he was supposed to do. It's always a problem. It's not different from the classroom. But on Zoom, there's so many distractions. It's harder to stay focused. I need to stop for just a second because, as I mentioned, my time is off. I need to confirm, Santri, how much time do I have left? Are we here?
Yes, Rob, you still have 20 minutes.
Okay, we're on target. Thank you. All right. So when we're talking about connectivity and participant focus, the next part that goes with that is presenter skills, instructor skills. Skill development takes time. It takes time to learn. We figure it out, and then things change. If you've been in Zoom for a year or 10 months, you'll have already seen some changes. And I had these shortcuts and I knew how to do this, and suddenly, oh, they changed it. Or the school makes a change and suddenly it forces you to change your behavior. So at this point, we're talking about the fact that how many years did I spend developing my skills, my craft, my style as a teacher, and now I have to change. I have to learn things. It takes time. I would rather be playing with my kids, but instead I'm trying to figure out how to do this so I have a good class tomorrow. In the same way, once we get on Zoom, we're multitasking. Okay, teachers always multitask in the classroom, but now we have that much more. right? And I know that my biggest frustration with Zoom is multitasking and dexterity. I'm pretty good with computers, but for example, I never learned to play piano. Piano requires two hands and a foot and a brain that can think and do other things. And I know people who are playing piano, very complicated, and singing and listening to somebody else, something else going on in the background. I can't do that, right? It's hard enough for me just to keep my fingers in the right place on the keyboard. Fingers and mouse. And oh yeah, I want to open this other app. I'm screen sharing. I'm going to change this one. I'm going to change that one. It's frustrating. I thought I was pretty good with computers. And each thing by itself, I do pretty well. But add more and more together, and I feel like I'm in handcuffs. My hands are tied. Are the cameras on? Okay, I don't know the rules in Indonesia. Korea has some privacy laws. There are other things about culture. Many students resist turning on the camera. As a teacher, I can say, if you don't turn on your camera, you're not here. And then what happens? Campus administration is contacting me saying, well, you know, students have rights. So I need to find another way to find out if students are there. Every 3 or 5 or 7 minutes, I ask a question and students have to write an answer in the chat box. I have to confirm that students are there and listening and paying attention, because maybe I cannot require a camera. It depends on your local culture. And you may allow students to talk for much of the class, but certain times turn it on. When you're talking to a partner, turn your camera on, but when I'm lecturing, you can turn it off. Is there a bandwidth problem? Are students paying for their data? These are all good questions. Breakout rooms, as I mentioned. Oh, interesting. Mistake in the PowerPoint page. Okay, breakout rooms. We're talking about a way to get students involved, to get students in, right? Their brain is on, they're participating, they're all here. One of the ways to do that is what's called gamification. I read a lot of gamification. I think somebody today is talking about gamification somewhat. It's not specific, but their title today suggests maybe they're going to talk about gamification. Getting people aged at a level as they would if they were playing a game. Whether that's a computer game like Super Mario Brothers or whatever, or in a Rubik's Cube, but you know, they're all there. You've got 97% of their brain focused on this, and they want to win, and they feel the competitive juices flowing. The WIIFM. Anybody know acronym? What's in me? What's my advantage? Why should I do this? What's my benefit? So WIIFM is the acronym for what's in it for me. What's my advantage? Why should I do this? Just give me an assignment and let me do it by myself. Well, if you understand that doing group work practice different parts of your brain, and society, much of what you do will be done with other people. If you learn to do by yourself, you will never activate this skill when you're dealing with other people. So you need to be able to work different aspects of your brain. So for this activity, please work in your group. At the same time, breakout rooms have this problem with monitoring. This picture that I'm showing of somebody monitoring rooms in a building, well, Zoom doesn't do this. This is my great frustration with Zoom, is when I was a university student long, long ago, back with dinosaurs, we had language learning labs and every student had their headphone and their microphone and ne discute pas tout le temps. Not discute pas tout le temps, right? The recording spoke, the student spoke. By the way, anybody speak French? And teachers could flip through to find out which student was doing the work and which student wasn't. Zoom doesn't have this. I mean, you can move to breakout rooms, but it takes 5 to 6 seconds. When you come in, all the students know that you're in. And you don't have this kind of overview like the security guard has in a building where I can see or quickly flip through all the different breakout groups to make sure that my learners are doing what they need to do. That learners can send me a quick flag and say, teacher, come here, we have a question. Right? Zoom doesn't do this part well. That's the next development of Zoom. Monitoring. I don't mean always assessment. I don't mean always supervising, but at least being able to keep a finger in all the groups. Zoom doesn't do this. Okay, so what are complementary services? What are things we can do along with Zoom? Well, one, the lecture. As I mentioned, self-recorded. Now, me personally, I use Flashback Recorder. You can find it on the internet. It's free. There's also a paid version, which is not too expensive. I think it's $50, which is not cheap, but much less than many, many other programs. The paid version allows you more editing control, but you can do everything you need to do with the free version. My school bought a license for something else. Some other friends use something else. You find the thing you like. So basically what I'm doing right now, we can record this, I could keep it, but Flashback Recorder and other recording devices give you even more options. For example, making my picture bigger or smaller compared to the PowerPoint. I could have 2 or 3 other things on the slide at the same time and making them big and larger and smaller and moving them around. So yes, recording lectures. There are also materials from commercial education systems, maybe from your book publisher, maybe something you bought, and you choose to use that. Perhaps you are using it through Zoom, or you're putting it up on a website, or you have a password for your learners to use. There's lots of free online lectures. Those are, recorded lectures. Everything from TED Talks to YouTube lectures about how to study or the history of the United States government. Lots of lectures available to use to complement your Zoom time. And then, of course, there's lots of various little free clips. For example, native speakers who are talking or reading or doing things, because if you want to use a native speaker model, or record your own voice, record your own dialogues, record your own conversations to give learners a model of what they want to try to reach. Because I'm not claiming that the native speaker model is the preferred model. And maybe Australian English is better than American English. So I'm not pointing to which you should use. Native speaker sample is just one example of what you could use. So what's the challenge here? Well, often we are using these lecture or materials to complement the Zoom, and we have a certain amount of time we're supposed to do in class. So we may need to have a way to confirm, to verify that students watched these or heard these or read these. And your LMS system may allow that, may allow you, for example, my school, we put things on a locked YouTube channel, and then the LMS, the learning management system, has a player, and we can tell when the students have watched or not watched. And some players can force you to confirm after 7 minutes. They give you a little pop-up. Are you here? You have 10 seconds to confirm. So if the student has walked out away from the computer and not watching, they don't get credit. Also, the problem with lecture is learner support. When we do a lecture in the classroom, at any time, students can raise their hand and say, teacher, teacher, I don't understand. What does that word mean? But in a recorded lecture, we don't have that. So one point could be to have recorded lectures that are short, 10 or 15 minutes, and have 4 of them or 6 of them. And at any time, students can watch video and then shoot a message to the teacher that the teacher will check the next day or that evening. Teacher, I didn't understand this. Okay. So the students don't have to go through a whole 60 or 80-minute lecture not understanding a basic concept. Another complimentary service are online readings to confirm that the readings are age appropriate and level appropriate, right? We don't want our quite good in English middle school students reading something that is maybe too sexually suggestive. And we have this challenge in US. There's some books that get banned in some school libraries because they're too suggestive. So we need readings that are appropriate for the learner's level and their age. We have to concern ourselves with how long is the reading. WebQuest, something I don't use enough, where you let students find the things. You give them certain criteria, certain priorities. This is what we're looking for. Go find something, read it, make a short report in whatever language you're doing, and your report should include the link, what you found. And students found with each other. Students have a little more autonomy there, a little more choice in what they read. But we need to question whether web skill is part of our curriculum. Should it be? At my school, sometimes I'm reminded that, well, you know, being proficient with the internet is actually not part of the curriculum. I say, yeah, but it should be. It's the 21st century. So we have to wrestle with that question. Of course, we always have to ask who did the work. Are students sharing each other's work, or did my older brother do the work? And again, learner support. Chat platforms. I told you my phone's kind of limited, but lots of students are out there using lots of stuff. Our students know more than we do when it comes to social media. WeChat, I guess, is popular. Slack, WhatsApp, Discord. Basically, the idea is that we're letting students communicate with each other and with the teacher. Those are always choices. We should give them 2 choices or more, right? Do they want to talk to the teacher or do they not? As a teacher, we have to decide how much of my personal life am I giving to my students, right? That's a hard question. Second channel, the idea, a way for students to communicate outside of Zoom. That can include things like polls. I don't have a recommendation for polls for you. I know there's a few softwares out there. I don't use them. As I said, I tend to not use external apps and platforms other than Kakao because the only thing I use. We also have privacy rules in Korea that say I cannot require students to communicate in any medium other than email. I can't require them to create a medium because they me on their cell phone. Now I know their phone number. Well, of course, I can find it in the university information system, but the rules are students have privacy. They don't have to use off-campus media. So, you know, law, again, interferes with good teaching. Polls, Zoom has a polling system, but you have to have a paid version. I don't use it. It offers time to teachers to have education environments. I log in with my university email and I get everything I want except polls and a few other things. External polling applications, again, you can use your chat applications or whichever. LMS, I've referred to this many times. It's a way for students to upload assignments to you instead of handing it to you in the classroom. For you to grade the assignments and let keep them in one organized place, and then recover those grades. You download all the grades. I discovered last week before final exams that our LS had a problem and we couldn't download it. I had to go up to every single assignment and copy paste every single grade. We couldn't download it. Boy, were we upset. Think about it. We have 900 faculty at my university. Everybody was using the LMS. Some were using it for the first time. Many of us, like me, said, well, I can't do ordinary classroom stuff. So I had like 17 things the students had uploaded, and I had put their grades there. And all of those things I had to download, copy, paste, line by line by line. Not happy. An LMS allows us to return the comments. When I grade that paper, it goes right there, and students can go back to the LMS and see what grade they got and what comments I gave. An LMS can have discussion boards too, where students can share information, share ideas. So if you're looking for an LMS, if your school doesn't have a learning system, here's a few that are popular: Cogno, Course Sites, Schoology, which is what most of my friends use, Schoology, Google Classroom, if you're a Google fan, and Moodle. The problem with Moodle is you have to have a website to host it. It could be your school, it's free, or it could be your own personal website. If you have a website and you check up there in the control panel of things, you might find out that you have a Moodle system easily installable. All right, LMSs. Sharing assignments, wikis and blogs. I'm not really a group person. I never was. I was the student who said, teacher, I don't like working with groups. Other people love it. So, wikis and blogs. Student videos and audios. Hey, if they've got a phone, they can make a video. It's that simple. If they've got a phone, they can make a video. Then it's a challenge, etc. But if it's not convenient for all to have free talking time, have them do short videos, 15 seconds, 2 minutes, 7 minutes. Focus on the message. If you're a social studies teacher, focus on the message. They may not be using English. That's your choice. You set the assignment. You're the master of your classroom. Okay? You set the assignment. But most of our younger people are more interested in the social media. Let them do it. Sharing assignments, peer coaching, have students share their work. All right. That could be through blogs. That could be through uploading their short report or their video into some community area where other students can comment on it. Make sure that, of course, with peer assessment and peer coaching, positive. We don't need our negative Nancy's up there saying, oh, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. Let's talk about what works. Solo and partner work. Google Talks. Not Google Talks, sorry. Google Docs. I'm not a Google myself. I don't like to give things to Google, okay? I don't like to give things to Google. Google's going to take that information and use it for commercial purposes. They can get their own data. I don't need to give it to them. But many people are a big fan of Google Docs. They do work. Again, peer assessment, peer sharing is part of the idea of solo and partner work.
Excuse me, Rob.
Yeah, we're done.
So yeah, just in time. Thank you.
Yeah, we're done. So
I'm not sure saved my life.
Well, you know, it goes back and forth.
Well,
we work together. So yeah, I'm open for questions or comments or whatever time you have.
Okay, thank you, Rob. You have several questions in the chat room, as you wish.
Okay, I haven't opened the chat room yet, so let me go ahead and take a look at that.
Okay, yes, please. Dr. Paul is here, by the way. Welcome, Dr. Paul.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, There are several questions.
Okay. Oh, got some long questions. All right. Usually I do use the chat from the beginning, but as I was a little bit late, I didn't do that. Okay. Zoom is just a platform. But I want to ask, what do you think about the issue that Zoom is very damaging students' mentality when they are studying, they turn off the camera and they do other activity? I believe that Zoom is no better or worse than classrooms in terms of student focus. The reason is this. Let's be honest. In our classroom, if we have Wi-Fi in our classroom, we have students who are hiding their phone under their desk and chatting. If we don't have Zoom, we have students who are doodling, drawing, and doing other things. I don't believe that Zoom is worse than the classroom. The problem with Zoom is that it can encourage students because they don't feel like the teacher is watching them. That's why the camera is important. It helps students realize the teacher might be watching them. Now, in my gallery right now, or in my, I can only see so many people at one time. I can't see 47 students in one of my classes. I can only see 25 at a time and then roll to the next bunch. So it's not perfect, but yeah, monitoring students is the weak point of Zoom. Internet is a given. We can't fight that. If you are worried about internet in your neighborhood or anyone else can help you. It is simple, factual. To the fact that I have been in Indonesia, in India, in Bangladesh, where they windows. I mean glass windows. The big panels have but one electrical outlet in the whole classroom. They had a chalkboard that was so gray that you could hardly see where the gray was. It is a medium problem. It's beyond our control. So as teachers, we're the master of the classroom as it is. I'm not rich enough to build a new school. I have to use the classroom I have. So I don't think it's fair to blame Zoom. But if students can't join, we can't do anything. Okay, it's not Zoom's fault. Question about ELT. My questions are: how do you compare the way you taught English at school before COVID-19 with now? Not much different. As I mentioned, I feel like it's too easy to lecture through Zoom. It's much harder to get students actively participating in a whole group or in their breakout groups. I do believe that if students already have a and you had a few weeks together and students knew each other and then shifted to Zoom, it would work much better. The problem is not a Zoom problem, it's a community problem. Do teachers and students trust each other? Do students trust each other? Are they friendly? Are they already in the habit of working together? And not Zoom nor any other distance medium can fight that well. It takes time to build those community relationships. I don't think this is going to change this year. My fear is that COVID and the impacts of COVID are going to be much longer. Are going to last several years. And the one good point of that is that people will learn even more to ignore this physical divide and become more social media driven and to build their communities through social media. We already see it. The young people, they do this. Kids go to the coffee shop and don't talk to each other. They sit there and they bang on their phone all day. So I think it's going to happen, even though it shouldn't. I'm out of time, I'm going to try to skim through one more. Problem or challenge in teaching English to non-native students? We're in the wrong place. This discussion could go on for hours. Teaching is teaching. I don't think it matters if much beyond the fact whether or not all the learners in the classroom share one common language. When you are in, let's say, North America, and you have students from China and Japan and France, then the only way they can communicate is English. There's some advantages to that, but there's some disadvantages to that. But if all the students speak a more original language, maybe it's their native language or a second language that they speak well, they all speak Bahasa Indonesia very well, then learning English in high school, we can use that Bahasa Indonesia, right? I don't use only English. When I first started teaching, I believed in English only. I don't anymore. I don't anymore. I think there are times when it's more effective to use the learner's L1. There's times when it's more effective, more beneficial to stay in English. And teachers, it's your job to figure out which is which. I'm going to stop here because I'm stepping into Dr. Paul's time. Santri, anything else?
I think you've covered the whole things they are asking, Rob.
Well, I don't think I have, but I think my time is over.
Yeah, your time is over. I believe so. So thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.